Giant Beasts of ARS was without a doubt my most anticipated show I had very little knowledge walking into with, but I just felt like could be a hidden gem of the season. And honestly, man, like, I know the anime community. People say it doesn't have the greatest production or nothing was truly original, so maybe we'll have to wait and see, or maybe people will jump off because it didn't hook them in quite enough. But for myself, this is the show that has, it's without a doubt, a grab bag of ideas. There's Attack on Titan level threats with these giant beasts. They're literally called giant beasts. There's all shapes and sizes. At one point in the episode, you literally have an Attack on Titan moment where a giant hand crushes a wall and people are running for their life. They're not titans, but they are giant beasts. You have a lot of like anime personalities we've seen before. There's a magic system that we've seen before. But then there's like this mixture of, there's like flying ships, but the land and the technology at general first glance doesn't seem futuristic. It's almost more of like a retro medieval setting. But then there's clearly this technology that I assume is powered by these like gemstones, which at one point this one man literally is popping them like they're pills. And I mean, I don't know how his teeth didn't break from chomping on them, but I digress. It's without a doubt a grab bag of ideas, but the idea that this show's going for so far is it's almost like they went inside my head and took a bunch of ideas that I like from anime. You have these cute, fun personalities, badass action, giant beasts trying to destroy humanity, some probably political sabotage underneath the hood, and the end result doesn't feel messy. Personally, for me, if you strip down every layer that this show has going on, it feels like a mix and mash that doesn't necessarily feel original. But the overall execution of this first episode, I can't help but say I was impressed. And I think one of the best compliments I can give this is, yes, it is not a Sakuga Fest. It's not going to be the most refined show of the season, but they were brilliant with how they directed this episode. The giant beasts in question, there was a good variety. There was like a boar-like one. There was just a general kind of like big guy walking on his hands. There's a good variety. And the fact that they didn't have like a 3D mess at any point, and instead they made every character model, all the wardrobes, and everything in question basic. A lot of the times when you see anime productions kind of take a nosedive and you say, damn, that really looks like a drop in quality, it's because you have more complex imagery that it's hard to replicate for 12 episodes in a row. That's generally where things fall apart, because you have, think of a lot of Attack on Titan's complex maneuver gear. It's easy to notice dips in those shows, because obviously there's a lot going on, so it's easier to notice. But a show like this with these giant beasts, there's a lot of flat colors, there's not a lot of detail in many of them, but they're consistent. So if they do drop visually, it's harder to notice. And I think that's the intelligent thing that this production team did, is they made the world fun to look at, the characters are fun to look at, but the fact of the matter was, there's enough complexities with the magic system and the giant bees, but it seems like a show that they could probably keep rather consistent, and if not, that means the production team was just a complete mess by the end of this run. But honestly, so far with what I'm seeing, I'm impressed with what they're able to do, because there's a lot of large-scale ideas at play that honestly feel pretty refined for a show that's not even trying to be anime of the season. But honestly, it feels like the director and this team has something to prove with this one. Now, this show isn't going to be for everyone, and I completely get that, but I am hoping that people are going to enjoy the reviews for this one, because I do have a full live reaction to this episode on the Patreon. But similar to Buddy Daddies, which I've already covered, if this show doesn't do well enough, like there's not enough comments, the analytics aren't looking good, this will be an exclusive on Patreon. These are the only two shows I'm going to make that basically remark for, so I'm just saying, if you do want to see more videos on this, like, comment, all that fun jazz. I hate doing it in the middle of a video. I'm fine doing it at the end of a video, because people will just say it's shameless plugging. But I just want to make it known that if these videos do underperform, this will be an exclusive on Patreon. And I always like trying to have as much as possible being on both, so there is a free version, but just know there's so much to cover this season. If this one isn't doing well, we're gonna have to push her over to Patreon only. But this first episode, right? I talked about the giant beast, talked about the production, but what about the general characters, right? So we have this girl who's first seen, she kicks a door completely into a wall with a person behind it. Before running away and escaping, she grabs a couple of drumsticks and she's eaten as she goes. And before she jumps over the wall to basically land in the water, she takes another bite. If that's not a great introduction to a character who is called a prototype, I mean, point me to what would be better, because immediately it was charming, it was a little badass, but there's like this comfy atmosphere, right? There's an Attack on Titan-ish threat, but with a comfier attitude to this. And you have the idea of the paladins in terms of like they're the greater warriors. It seems like they take the general civilians and they use them to bring the beast to the wall so they can collect the jewels that they end up harvesting. And maybe if you improve or like impress enough, as seen by our boy running down a wall Spider-Man style to save a guy, maybe you get recruited to be a paladin. There's a lot up in the air with that side of things, and clearly the two main characters we're following is the prototype girl and this kind of like emotionless warrior who seems like a badass. I mean, at the end of the episode, he not only gives a forehead kiss to save the day, he summons his lance or his sword Thor style. So I mean, there's some mysteries with this dude for sure, but there's enough there to make it feel charming, to make it feel fun, but it just kind of feels like, despite having ideas I've seen before, and nothing I could really say is original about the episode, the ideas that I have seen before, the way they crafted it, it does feel like this show has its own identity, and I think that's where sometimes these shows fall flat, is they struggle with that identity crisis. But this one, I do feel like it's Giant Beast. I really feel that way. And I mean, I like the fact too that, you know, characters aren't just scummy for the sake of it. There's this little moment where she, after escaping, she bumps into this woman and destroys her flowers. And she's like, you know, apologies aren't enough. You're gonna have to pay for this. And she has this like stack of gold coins. You know damn well, even without knowing the currency of this world, it's not a stack's worth of flowers. And she only takes a single one. She doesn't take advantage of this girl and then immediately helps her get dressed because she doesn't have enough clothes on her back. It's little moments like those, and I think I've just grown to appreciate nicer characters in anime because there's just so many manipulative or like, ooh, this girl doesn't understand how much money she has, so we'll take it all and say, still, you owe me a bit more. No, it's nice to just have characters who feel like they have the good interests in mind, like, hey, you ruined my product, you have to pay for it, but I'm not going to take advantage of you, and after realizing that you're kind of down on your luck, I'm going to go out of my way to help you. Little moments like those do go a long way for me, and I find little moments like that in a show like this, which isn't just trying to be depression. It has good action, it's going to have maybe some heartbreak given the type of creatures we're fighting, but it does feel different in a unique sort of way without a production feeling mediocre. It feels fine, like nothing about the production I'm going to scream from the top of my lungs like, oh damn, I've never seen anything this good. But the fact that it's consistent and they're doing a style that will be easy to replicate for multiple episodes, I'm impressed. Maybe a lot of people won't give a shit about this anime. Maybe the vast anime community will say, honestly, I don't see what you see in it. If that's the case, that's fine. We all have our preference. Hell, there's at least 5 or 6 shows a season that people, they beg me to cover. They're like, damn, this is one of my favorite, no one's talking about it. And I just can't click with it the way they can. It does happen. But for me personally, I think both with Buddy Daddies as well as Giant Beasts of Ours, Fridays I think could be the most underrated day of the week because the weekend is packed full of amazing returns and just big shows people are anticipating. But I think both of them, honestly, for a Friday, and there's even shows I haven't talked about that I've heard people hype up this Friday. Like, I think this anime season is going to be full of sleeper hits and hidden gems. And for me personally, Giant Beasts of Ours is one that I highly, highly recommend, but I'll leave it up to you. What do you think of this first episode? Are you going to watch the next ones? Do let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Like I mentioned, full live reaction is available on the Patreon. You can also get other perks as well, like video shoutouts, so do consider that if you so wish. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.